Some interesting F1 news this week involving a very famous family in Formula One history. And this is Mick Schumacher. You probably recognise the family lineage just a little bit from that face. He's going to get his first test in a contemporary F1 car following the Bahrain Grand Prix. And not only is he going to drive for Alfa Romeo, which perhaps some of us saw coming, but he's also going to drive the Ferrari as well. So I've got two people who probably have followed Mick's junior career up to now closer than anyone else. That's Simmons and Jack Benyon, just to talk about where this falls in Mick's development as a potential F1 driver of the future. And firstly, Marcus, this seems to have come around quite quickly for Mick. It might prompt suggestions that he's being thrown in or fast-tracked by Ferrari. Is it too soon?
Well, I don't think it's too soon to have a Formula One test for anyone who's a reigning champion of the European Formula 3 Championship or GP3, as we had up until the end of last season. The drivers at that level are really, really well prepared. They're used to, well, the Formula 3 drivers anyway, are used to driving highly responsive, top handling equipment. Most of the drivers in GP3 are as well, because they've done Formula 3 before switching over to GP3, which kind of gives them the Pirelli understanding, etc. So yeah, why not? I think he is capable of doing a decent job.
Jack, is this perhaps Ferrari, because Schumacher's only just joined Ferrari's programme officially, is this perhaps a chance for Ferrari to get an early look at him, see what kind of impression he makes, and then maybe map out his mid-term future from there?
I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we said that any F1 team wasn't evaluating every single person they get in their car at any point. Obviously, Schumacher, the name comes with a lot of responsibility for him and a lot of pressure. You see it with the media. He was basically shut down last year, Marcus, I think, to most of the F3 paddock in terms of doing press things and things like that. So he's been very well guarded from that kind of thing, but he's still massively under pressure. Especially people now, it's like a massive influx of attention coming towards him now because he's in an F1 car, he's in F2. People are becoming more and more aware of Mick Schumacher as a driver, not just as a name. So it's a massive opportunity for him to impress Ferrari. If he does a bad job, Ferrari are going to think twice about wanting to put him in the car again. If he does a good job, could set him up for a future career. It's in at the deep end for him, I'd say. Definitely in at the deep end for any driver coming from F3 to jump in an F1 car. But it's a great opportunity for him to impress. We've seen drivers similar to him like George Russell and Lando Norris do fantastic jobs when they've been given an F1 chance, and that's persuaded their teams in turn to give them more time and to try and get them back in the car again. So it's a big opportunity for Mick. If he does a bad job, I don't think it will end his career or anything like that, but there'll always be that in the back of the mind of Ferrari. They'll always be thinking, should we put him back in the car again? He's not done a particularly fantastic job this time, but also he could go in there, massively impress them with his feedback, with how quickly he adapts to the car, how he goes through the run plans that they'll be trying to get through in that test, and how quickly he sort of gets up to speed.
Yeah, I'd imagine someone who's had to go through their junior racing career with the name Schumacher is probably used to pressure at this point. You mentioned George Russell and Lando Norris there, and you obviously covered them in their Formula 2 battles last season and perhaps got a close insight into what they were going through as they were trying to break into F1. What did you detect from the way they had to go about last year and the way they had to impress McLaren and Williams that probably Mick will have to do this year with Ferrari?
I think the tests that George and Lando had before last season were key, because like Mick's doing now, he's going to get in the car, he's going to learn about the steering wheels. That alone is so complex in F1 these days with the programs they have to run on the steering wheel. Being in the simulator and actually getting a quick run in an F1 car like Mick's going to get in the post-season test is massively important for not making yourself look stupid when you get in a Formula 1 car with all these buttons on the steering wheel. You don't want to be turning on the pit speed limiter halfway down the main straight or something like that and doing something really stupid. So those preliminary tests like Mick's going to get now were massively important for Lando and George for that reason, for getting some experience in an F1 car and really building some momentum. But also to impress the team, like we've said already. And Mick will get the opportunity to be in engineering debriefs, learn how the Ferrari engineers operate, get a real idea for the atmosphere of the team. Because one thing with F2 is they're really restricted on how many mechanics they have in the garage, and they're only working with one engineer. Whereas obviously Ferrari will have a massive team with data engineers, and the scale will be a big thing for Mick as well. Learning how the F1 team works. So there's lots of things that he can do in this test that can really impress Ferrari, and his approach. I think he's quite pragmatic, very sensible in his approach to how he goes about things, and I think he's got the right approach to be ready for that F1 test.
Would you say, Marcus, that from what you saw of Mick during his time in F3, that he has probably got the right sort of calm mindset to go into this and take the right approach. He's not going to be perhaps overwhelmed by it or thinking that, you know, he's got to impress them by lunchtime on the first day, that kind of thing.
I mean, if anything, he's always taken a little bit longer than maybe he should do to build himself up in a particular category. I know from very early in his Formula 4 days, way back in 2015, his problem was putting it on the line in qualifying because he didn't want to make any silly mistakes, and I think that's partly a reflection of being a Schumacher. We saw that again in Formula 3. His first season was 2017. Didn't really do much spectacular at all in his first year. Never really looked leery or anything like that. And then improved significantly in time for the 2018 season. So I think it would be a very out of character Mick Schumacher to be desperately trying to put it on the line to get a great time on his first morning or something like that. Some people might say that he's being fast-tracked into a Ferrari F1 test just because he's a Schumacher, but if you look back at the stats, some of his predecessors at the Ferrari Driver Academy, like Antonio Giovinazzi, or even 2 or 3 years before him, Raffaele Marcello, they both had Ferrari F1 tests at a similar stage of their career. So this is an entirely normal thing for Ferrari to be doing.
Jack, I find it funny that Marcus mentions there that Mick's approach tends to be to gradually try to work up the limit, because I always felt that his dad, Michael's approach tended to be find a limit as quickly as you can, maybe have an off in testing or on a Friday of a Grand Prix weekend, and then never do it when it counts. So that's quite interesting and quite different. What are the challenges he's going to face this year? He's obviously a rookie in F2, but expectations are sky high because of the name, because of the F3 title, and now he's got to balance that with being a Ferrari junior driver and having seat time in an F1 car as well.
I think the other thing that makes it, high pressure is Lando and Georgia we talked about already. Who've just done one season in F2 and then gone straight into F1. So this is a Schumacher name. He should be in F1. That's where he's destined to be. So why is he not there yet? That kind of thing. It's going to be really interesting to see how he gets on in F2. Actually, he struggled a little bit in pre-season testing with the Pirelli tyres, which are key to F2. It's probably the most significant thing about the Formula 2 Championship is making the Pirelli tyres work. The problem is, unlike F1, they don't have tyre sensors during a weekend, so all the drivers have to put the tyres into the right window, which is quite narrow, on feel alone with no data, or there's nothing they can really do other than practice to try and get the tyre into that correct window. So it's a massively different thing to manage, especially when you come from the Hancocks in F3, which are really durable, and he's really going to have to be on the ball, pragmatic in his approach as he has been in F3, really have a good base setup in his Prema car. He's been with the team 4 years now. He knows the team well enough. They had a quick car in F2 last year with Nick de Vries, quite a few pole positions and a few wins as well. So the car should be there or thereabouts, if not top dollar. So he's just got to get in there and really adapt through the weekend now and keep working on those tyres, which he struggled with in testing. But René Rosan from Prema seems to think he's getting there. It was towards the end of the Barcelona test he was looking a lot better.